Now, Vietnam's diplomatic activities are really vibrant this week. Vietnamese top leaders are seen across the globe, strengthening ties with many countries and regions. And right now, we are having State President Luong Cuong in South Korea attending APEC.
And a lot has been happening, Dylan. Now, the state president did not hesitate to use this opportunity to emphasize the cooperation by delivering a speech at the first session of the APEC 2025 leaders meetings, following the official welcome ceremony for APEC leaders. The event was held on Friday, attended by heads of states and from 21 member economies and invited guests. Let's take a look.
Under the theme of Towards a More Connected, Resilient Region and Beyond, the meeting focused on boosting trade and investment amid global uncertainty and strengthening public-private cooperation for inclusive and sustainable growth. Leaders reviewed the IMF's global outlook and discussed ways to build economic resilience and deepen regional linkages. The state president emphasized that in today's complex environment, enhancing connectivity and resilience, particularly for developing APEC economies, is more vital than ever.
APEC should focus on three priorities. First, remove supply chain and infrastructure bottlenecks through digitalized customs, upgraded logistics, harmonized data and payment rules, and by narrowing technology gaps. Second, boost trade and investment by advancing the Asia-Pacific Free Trade Agreement, fulfilling WTO commitments and reducing non-tariff barriers. Third, support small and medium-sized enterprises in accessing capital, technology and markets, and strengthen governance to help them thrive in the digital era. A strong private sector is key to sustainable growth.
State President Luong Cuong affirmed that, as host of APEC 2027, Vietnam will work closely with member and partner economies to enhance regional connectivity, promote green growth, and foster a favorable environment for cooperation and development towards a peaceful, stable, and prosperous Asia-Pacific.
As leaders from across the region converge in South Korea to bridge divides on trade, innovation, and sustainability amid rising global tensions, the spotlight was also on a particular visit by two of the world's largest economies. Prior to APEC's economic leaders meeting, U.S. President Trump and Chinese Party General Secretary and President Xi Jinping shook hands and had a meeting, an event that broke headlines everywhere.
On the sidelines of the APEC summit, U.S. President Donald Trump met with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The U.S. president said he had agreed to reduce tariffs on China to 47% in exchange for Beijing resuming U.S. soybean purchases, keeping rare earths exports flowing, and cracking down on fentanyl. World stock markets from Wall Street to Tokyo had hit record heights leading up to the meeting on hopes of a breakthrough in trade tensions between the world's two largest economies that set upended supply chains and rocked global business confidence.
Also during the APEC economic leaders meeting, Chinese President Xi Jinping put forward a 5-point proposal for promoting a universally beneficial and inclusive economic globalization and building an Asia-Pacific community. He called for joint efforts to safeguard the multilateral trading system, build an open regional economic environment, maintain the stability and smooth flow of industrial and supply chains, promote digitalization and greening of trade, as well as promote universally beneficial and inclusive development.
Now let's bring in our expert for an assessment of this year's APEC, Mr. Adam Sitkoff. He's Executive Director of the American Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for coming to us. Now, Mr. Sitkoff, what makes this year's APEC particularly important? Can you tell us?
Okay, thank you. Well, I think APEC's really important. It's got 21 members that represent half of the world's GDP, around 40% of the world's population. You know, we have to realize that we're in a kind of a new global framework for global trade and supply chains. And even though the organization has its limitations and the things agreed on are non-binding, it really carries symbolic significance that all the leaders come together for these discussions. And, you know, Vietnam is a big player. The Vietnam president is there right now. And Vietnam, you know, hosted APEC in 2006, 2017, and again is gearing up to do it in 2027. So I think APEC is good for Vietnam, and it's good for the region and its economy.
And as head of AmCham, how have American businesses in Vietnam responded to news of APEC 2025? And what are the potential implications for the investment climate of the country?
Well, when we look at 2025 as a year, business executives can come up with one word that defines it, which is uncertainty, right? And we just don't know that every time Donald Trump meets with any world leader, is there going to be some new agreement that changes the whole landscape. Every time this happens, people have to kind of reconfigure their calculations on, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm making. And given the world environment and the trade rules that exist, what's going to be best for my company. So I think it's good for Vietnam. If the world's two largest economies can find a way to lock in some certainty and cooperate with each other, that lets businesses all around the region, including in Vietnam, drive their businesses forward, and they're better able to plan. And I think that we're going to see more economic activity when we have certainty, not less.
As you have also mentioned, Vietnam is to host APEC 2027 in Phu Quoc. So how does that shape the trajectory of Vietnam in the next few years?
Well, I think it just further cements Vietnam's role as a player in the region, a global economic power, a responsible country that wants to be involved in bringing others to the table. And Vietnam's been really good at hosting these type of things. So I have no doubt that Vietnam will do a good job when they host APEC in 2027. And it is important for the country. And again, we expect Donald Trump to come here, and that could, I guess you could say, that could bring good and bad, but it presents a real opportunity to have him here. It's important that he went, and it's important that he went to the ASEAN leaders summit in Kuala Lumpur, and we haven't seen this type of travel. This was President Trump's first trip to Asia, so if we can get him back in 2027 in Vietnam, I think that is it's great, and that'll be significant for Vietnam.
Thank you, Mrs. Sitkoff, for coming. And now we continue with our regular updates.